A number of characters had become wet, and in order to dry themselves, the dodo bird decided to issue a competition. Everyone was to run around the lake until they were dry. Nobody cared to measure how far each person had run, nor how long. When they asked the dodo who had won, he thought long and hard and then said, "Everybody has won, and all must have prizes." Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about something that is a little bit of a last minute thought that I had. It was just something that popped into my head a few moments ago. I really just wanted to kind of jump on camera and talk about it before the stream of consciousness kind of went away here. In psychology, the Dodo verdict is the concept that in therapy, all therapies are essentially productive or effective, or at least most, because they share common factors. It's the idea that the method of therapy that you're doing really doesn't matter because the common factor of, say, for example, establishing a connection with someone who is a helping professional is a common factor that is shared across all of them. And that is the thing that essentially makes the therapy effective, or being able to communicate your thoughts, what's important to you, to someone who is going to be confidential with those things, being able to talk about things that you don't normally talk about. These are what are called common factors in therapy. I wanted to take this concept and relate it back to the personality typology community. Myers-Briggs, or you could even say personality psychology in general, five-factor model, Enneagram, socionics, the schools of thoughts that we have within all of these schools as well, so the sub-schools essentially. But my main idea and my main thought here is that when I approach typology, I often tell people that to me it really doesn't matter what school or model or system you're using, as long as you're getting something out of it. I kind of preach a four-function model because I think it's simple and effective, and it doesn't necessarily make things too complicated. But when I'm doing that, I'm not saying that eight-function models are wrong. I'm not saying that socionics is wrong. I'm saying that they're all effective in their own way because they're getting us to begin the process of being introspective, to get us to start thinking about our own processes and how we're communicating with people, what our weaknesses are, what our strengths are, communication limitations. These are the common factors that are shared between all the typology models, all the personality models. Again, you could even relate it to something like a five-factor model. And the real idea here is that you're getting use somewhere between these systems, within these systems. Something about them is helping you. And it's, again, going to go back to the concept that I've talked about in previous videos of like MBTI or personality typology being a pseudoscience in some regard, or being more so of a philosophy. And I don't think this necessarily matters because they share the common factors with therapy, even of getting you to be introspective or getting you to look within yourself, think about your strengths, limitations, or roadblocks that you might have in life. So, really, what I think I'm trying to say here is that the dodo bird verdict really gets us to look at the typology community from this bird's eye view. It really gets us to think about how we should be thinking about typology in general. Now, as someone who's an extroverted thinking, preferring individual in terms of my function stack, I tend to think of application over necessarily accuracy when I'm talking about things. So this may be something that the introverted thinkers might find annoying or frustrating as I'm talking about this. But to me, it's more important that the people that we are working with, the people that I work with in coaching or I'm doing personality assessment sessions with, or the people that I'm helping in general in day-to-day life, that they're getting something out of personality typology, personality psychology, whether it's five-factor model, whether it's MBTI, whether it's socionics, whether it's any of these things. The goal is to start looking at who you are and why you are doing things the way you are. And in the end, we're all winners because we're using some sort of personality psychology model. We're all taking things away. We're growing from using these models. So the next time you're in a debate about what's the right personality model, should I be using socionics? Should I be using Enneagram? Should I be using this or that? Stop and ask yourself, well, what are the common factors that are shared across them? Are they really that different? How different are they, and are those differences going to be impactful to the way in which you use the system? Are you actually going to use the system, or are you just interested in applying it in some sense, or sorry, not applying it, but interested in trying to dissect it to figure out what is true? Because in reality, I don't think you're necessarily going to get at the heart of what is true for something like this. For a lot of people, it's going to be more so just about how it helped them. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that are like my story with MBTI, my story with Socionics, Enneagram, how it helped me grow, how it helped me overcome a problem. You don't often see these as much with things that are a little bit more on the sciencey end, like the 5-factor model, because it's not a clinical tool. It's not something intended for coaching or therapy, even if it can get us to start looking within ourselves. But when you're looking at these models that are intended for that, that share somewhat of a similarity to therapy, you're going to see these common factors come out of them. When I first talked to one of my mentors about the idea that I used Myers-Briggs in my coaching years ago, he said, "Oh, so you're essentially doing therapy?" And I said, "No, I'm not doing therapy. I'm doing coaching because we're not talking about clinical things." And he said, "Well, you're listening to people's problems, you're helping them solve things, you're letting them vent emotionally. That's pretty much just therapy." And, I had to stop and think, well, I mean, he's kind of right. The main difference is that I'm not working with people who have clinical problems or things that I shouldn't ethically be helping them with. But the general idea is that there's a common factor between typology, its uses, and something like therapy. Now, that doesn't mean I think that you should use typology as a replacement for therapy. I think therapy in and of itself is very, very important if you have something that requires it. If you have a problem that is something that needs to be addressed by someone who's a professional in the realm of mental health. But there's a lot of things that can be gained and your mental health can improve from using typology, even if it won't be able to address a lot of the things that are relevant specifically to therapy methods. So I know this is kind of a rant. This isn't my usual style of video. I usually don't go on for a few minutes at a time like this, but I really just had this thought in my head about the Dodo verdict and how I think it really just relates to the personality typology community. We're all getting something out of personality typology. So pick your model, get what you want out of it, and then at the end of the day, let that be that. You don't need to spend all day and all night trying to pick a model, find the perfect one. Where are the errors in this one? Where are the strengths in this one? Just find one that does what it needs to do, because at the end of the day, we're all winners when using these systems.